Hello again, everyone. This is Steam Code, and welcome to the fifth and final part of our Minesweeper tutorial series. In this part, we're going to be finishing up our handler class, and we're going to be tying up all the rest of the loose ends that are left here with this program. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Now, if you notice from the last part of our series, if you try to run this program, you won't be able to do that because our click button function has not been actually written out in our cell class. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So we're going to go over here and say public void click button, and then we're going to go ahead and from our click button class, or from our click button function, we're going to say handler dot click, and we're going to pass in this as a constructor, as the parameter. Handler. Now, because we don't actually have handler as a variable in this class, we're going to go ahead and have to create that handler. So let's go ahead and start our handler with the game. So this is where the game class. So this is where we're going to actually create our handler variable here. So we're going to say private handler equals a new handler. All right. Then we're going to go ahead and pass that into our window as a parameter in the constructor, like that. Then in our window class, we're going to go ahead and take this in. Handler. We're going to go ahead and pass this into our panel. Then go over to our grid class right here, and we're going to say grid and handler h. Pass that into here, and then in our whenever we're going to be creating our cells, let's put h into here as well. And now we can add h, which is our handler, into each of the cell when we create them. So let's go ahead and do that right here, here, and here, and right here. Okay, looks good. And then we're going to go over here and say handler, finally, handler. Let's create our instance variable as well. And then say this dot handler equals handler. And now, let's save all of our classes here, and there we go. Okay, now if we save everything, I think everything should be looking okay. Now when we go ahead and run our program, you just see that, oh, wait a minute, everything still doesn't work. Now the reason why it doesn't work is because we haven't actually been able to call our click button method. So what we have to do is go into our constructor here and add our mouse listener. So what this does is going to add functionality essentially to listen for whenever we click our mouse onto the cell. So we're going to go ahead and add mouse listener. We're going to add a class within a class. So we're going to say new mouse listener and curly brackets. And since this is an interface, we're going to be overriding these functions here. So we're going to say override public void mouse clicked, and this is a function we're going to be really working with here. Mouse clicked, mouse event e is going to be passed in as our parameter here, and then there are 4 others. Oh, hold on. Public, and then I think this is, there we go. Okay. So we need mouse entered, mouse exited, mouse press, and mouse release. And then also we're going to go ahead and need to import our classes here. So let's go ahead and click import java.awt.event, and then import the entire library here, or the entire section here. Small typo. Okay, now in mouse clicked, what we're going to be doing is say, just simply call our click button function here, right there. Now, oh, and we need to have our semicolon right here. Okay, now when we run, additionally in the handler class, we, I believe, forgot or misspoke, and this should be else if, not simply if. So there's a problem with running it after we fix this, and the numbers weren't being displayed properly. It's because else if probably wasn't there. That was a small mistake I made the last video. Now when we go ahead and save our project and run it, we should be able to have a functioning game for the most part. You see that? So everything, populates properly. We have it clearing all the way until we have a number on the border, and the numbers should be accurate here. So when we click on the cell that's a mine, right, this would be a mine cell here, we get a star here, and then X's on all the other mines. And if we count them, there should be 10 mines. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mines. Perfect. All right. Now, when it comes to winning the game, right, we're going to need to have conditions for that as well. So the first thing you're going to probably want to do is to click or enable or instantiate, a variable int discovered cells. Right, so that is going to be how many cells have been discovered in our entire game here. Then at the very end of our handler class, we're going to ask the question with an if statement. We're going to say if discovered cells equals grid dot cell grid dot size minus the amount of mines, which would be game dot mine count Then let's do something fun. So let's say for int x equals 0, and we're going to go ahead and iterate through everything here. So cell grid dot size let's set everything here. So let's say if first the type of the cell. So let's say if grid dot cell grid dot get x dot get type equals 1. Right, so if it's a mine cell, we're going to go ahead and set that cell to be disabled first of all. So grid dot cell grid dot get x dot set enabled. We're going to set that to be false. We're going to disable that cell, and then we're going to go ahead and set the text of that cell as well. So set grid dot cell grid dot get x dot set text, and similarly to the loss condition, our win will have an x there for where the mines are, and then we're going to have else here, else we're going to do the same thing. We're going to disable our cell, and let's just do something like a smiley face for all the other cells, right? So you can do whatever you want here. I just decided to do a smiley face. Now, a slight mistake here. I think I had put this if statement out here, which is going to be outside of our click function. So we're going to need to make sure you have this if statement. We're going to move it to where there are 2 brackets right here in the bottom. That'll enclose our entire if statement right here. When we save it, that should be okay. Now, if you remember from one of our earlier parts of our series, we do have our flagged variables, right? So that is when we right click on our cell, we're going to have something there indicating that we have flagged a possible cell as a possible mine, right? So we're going to go ahead and add functionality for that now as well. Now, the first thing we want to do is make sure that we're not enabling cells, we're not able to disable or discover cells if they've been flagged. So let's just go ahead and add a condition for that right now. So let's say that if not cell dot is flagged, okay. Oh, if not cell it is flagged, and let's just put this into here like that. Okay. All right. And then when it comes to, in fact, hold on, we're going to actually enclose this entire thing into what we have here. Let's put our bracket right here, and then let's go ahead and indent everything from this point. Okay, so essentially the purpose of doing this, right, having this conditional here, is that we don't want to be able to click or process any cells that have a flag on them, right? So this is what this is for, and then we're going to indent everything, right, for neatness' sake. Now at the bottom here, let's also go ahead and add our functionality for our right click. So let's create a method here which says public void right click. We're going to pass in cell here. Now let's have a couple if statements here. So we're going to say if not cell dot is discovered. All right, so we only want to be able to flag cells that have not been already discovered yet. Then we're going to say first, if the cell has not been flagged, we're going to flag it. And then our other if statement, or our else, is going to be if the cell is not flagged, then we're going to, if the cell is flagged, then we're going to unflag it. So first cell if not flagged. So if not cell dot is flagged right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to say cell dot set flagged to true. Cell dot set text is going to just be an F, right? That's going to be our indication. So this, when we flag our cell, is going to say F on it. You could set it to anything you want to, though. We're going to increment our variable flagged cells, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to get into that in a second. Flagged cells window. We're going to also do something like this: window dot update, and we're going to pass in flagged cells. Now these two things here I'm going to get into, so let me just comment this out for right now, and I'm going to get back to that later in this video. Okay. Additionally, we're going to have an else, and we're going to say cell dot set flagged to true or to false. We're going to go ahead and just cancel the text that we have here. So we're going to say cell dot set text, and we're going to set that to empty bracket or empty quotes. And then let's just comment this out for right now. We're going to say flagged cells minus minus, and I forgot this needs to be plus plus here. We're going to increment that, and then window dot update, we're going to pass in our flagged cells. All right. Now, when it comes to, we're going to go ahead and create our flagged cell variable here. It's going to be an instance variable. It's going to be a static variable. So we're going to say private static int flagged cells. This just, again, this keeps track of how many flagged cells we do have in our entire game here. But as you can see, once we run our game, again, when we right click, we don't have our functionality. Now the reason we don't have functionality is because, again, we don't have a method that actually is going to handle that. So let's go to our cell class, and we're going to go ahead and create a right click. Similar to how our click button is, we're going to create a right click. So we're going to say public void right click button. We're going to say handler dot right click, which is this is that method we created just a moment ago. We're going to say handler dot right click, and we're going to pass this in, and then we're going to say, now what we're going to do here with this mouse clicked function, we're going to have a slight if. We're going to have an if statement here. So we're going to say if, and to check to see if our click is a right click, we have to reference this here, swing utilities dot is right mouse button, and then we're going to pass an E right here. We're going to say else click button. Let's just put our curly brackets in here just for neatness sake, like that. There we go. Oh, let's make sure we have this set to right click button like that. Now if we run our code here, when we right click, we have a flagged. And additionally, when we click on it, we're not able to do anything with it. It is only once we unclick, okay, that we are able to interact with these cells in a normal way. Okay. Now there's a couple loose ends that we need to tie up here. So in our window, as if you can remember from earlier, we did have an update thing here, an update function. Now essentially what this is, we're gonna have a little bit of text on the title page of our window here that's going to just give us information about the game status. So we're going to create a public static void update. Okay, this is going to be our function here. We're going to pass in flagged just to represent the amount of flagged cells we have. We're going to say frame dot set title. We're going to set that to title plus mines. All right, we're going to say that's how many mines we have. We're going to add game dot mine count plus, and we're going to just say how many flags there are. And then pull in our flagged parameter here, like this. Okay, and then back in our handler class, we can go ahead and uncomment this out right here. We save. And now when we run our code here, we have all of our information. So we have 10 mines as usual, and then 0 flags. Once we make a flag, right, it's going to increment. And when we lose a flag here, when we right click again, it goes back down to 1. Okay. Now when it comes to our win condition, we want to make sure we have our discovered cells incrementing as well. So let's go ahead and put this in here to say that for int x is equal to 0. So essentially what we're going to do here is we're going to increment through all of the cells that are inside of our game here. So cell grid dot size, we're going to increment by 1 every time, and we're going to say if grid dot cell grid dot get, and we're going to say if it's been discovered, then we're going to increment discovered cells. We're going to do that. Okay. Now that should pretty much finish up our entire handler class here. Now there is one more thing, and this is just a small thing we're going to do here when it comes to our game, and we're going to set our mine count slightly differently to how we normally, to how we had it set last time. So instead of setting it to 10 as like this hard variable, we're going to go ahead and set it to a variable that has to do with our grid size. So essentially what we'll do is our mine count is going to be dependent upon the size of our grid here. So if we had a smaller game, right, we're going to have less mines. If we had a larger game or grid size, we're going to have more mines. So that'll just make it a little bit easier, so we don't have to set as many variables at the outset here. So set math.round. What we're going to be rounding is essentially the grid size squared. So we're going to say grid size times grid size, and we're going to take 1/10 of that times 0.1. Okay, and let's cast that to an int, right, because this has to be an int. So that's why it's giving us an error here. So let's cast that to an int. get rid of that extra semicolon, and that should be pretty good. Now when we run our game here, we should have all the functionality that we need. We can flag cells, okay? And when we win our game, it looks a little bit something like this. And we have smiley faces all around. Thank you guys again for joining me and for learning this entire game here. It was really a pleasure doing it. I'm sorry it took so long to get these last 2 videos out, but our series has now been finally completed. And if there are any questions, if there are any comments, any concerns, please feel free to leave them in the comments section below. Please feel free also to like and subscribe and to share this video. And until next time, this has been Steam Code signing off. Thank you.